Hello and welcome to Constructing Success, a sales, lifestyle, business, and performance podcast. I could not be more excited for the guest I have joining me today. He is, in my opinion, the man, the myth, the legend. He is a founder of two companies currently, but what we're going to dig into today is things haven't always been so smooth, and we're going to deconstruct what it took to get from a college dropout all the way to being in the C-suite of these companies and on executive level boards. Without further ado, I would like to introduce you to John Chapman. John, thank you for joining me today.
Absolutely, man. Happy to be here.
And where are you currently?
Denver, Colorado.
Denver, Colorado. And I have to ask because it seems like you are always in a new city or a different country these days.
Yeah, dude. Constantly on the move. But Denver is headquarters for both organizations right now. Able to work on the road a ton. Got a great team behind me. Physical location right now is Denver, Colorado, in a new facility. It's a little sterile at the moment, but just moved into a 10,000 square foot warehouse and slowly building it out with the intent that both organizations will have a footprint in this facility.
Okay, and when you say both organizations, that's Liberty Dynamic and SimWorks?
Correct. Yeah. We're going to be running some manufacturing ops for Liberty Dynamic from this location, but we're also building out a complete prototyping facility, 3D printing capabilities, electronics, CNC machines, something that if I would have had access to when I was starting up a company several years ago, would have really pushed it forward. So we're going to be opening up those prototyping capabilities to other veteran entrepreneurs that are trying to make physical product and kick it out to the space. Those resources are going to be good for SimWorks as well as we start to progress the company further into physical products.
Okay, and so we've got both companies. I cannot speak as eloquently as you can about them. Take your pick. Which one do you want to talk about first?
We'll go into the lineage of which one was started first, and that would be Liberty Dynamic, the non-lethal company.
All right. So tell me, how did you come up with Liberty Dynamic, and give us a little bit of background.
Yeah, absolutely. So background for why this technology is important stems from my time in the military, specific force reconnaissance. It is non-lethal tools are utilized by military. We are highly trained how to use it, discretion or otherwise, through government surplus. Those same tools are now in the hands of law enforcement, good, bad, or indifferent. They hurt themselves, they hurt civilians, and they also cause millions upon millions of dollars worth of damage to private property, which in turn, taxpayers like me and you end up settling those civil suits. And we took a approach to start in a very niche market to re-engineer all the faults out of a current piece of technology. Hollywood dubs them flashbangs, but they're noise flash diversion devices. So if you think in a Hollywood setting, you have a hostage situation, so civilians, and there's bad guys holding these hostages, and the good guys are going to come in. They throw this device into the room, bright light, loud noise, good guys come in, save the day. That's a flashbang. Currently, the current tech has smoke, secondary flammability, instability when it comes to the safety mechanics. And so we took all of those faults, engineered the faults out to create a true novel approach. So same physiological parameters, achieves everything that the military grade equipment does, but does not cause that collateral damage. We have achieved pretty phenomenal market penetration. Multitude of federal teams have adopted, which is a very hard nut to crack into. And then also hundreds of state, local SWAT teams. And this is through word of mouth, and we can dive into that later. But this is with a minimal marketing budget, but it is designing a product that speaks for itself. So we're not paying for clicks, we're not paying for people to adopt our product. It is a good enough product that the first person gets it and like, this is fucking awesome. All right, we're going to tell my next guy about it. We're going to tell the next guy about it, and we've built a grassroots following through, just a truly better product for the mission at hand. And then we have some great transition into robotic delivery of non-lethals, and this is a lot of fun R&D that we're working on. And this is taking handheld devices, miniaturizing it to be deployed robotically. So if you look at the success rate that has happened in Ukraine with the weaponization of drones on the lethal side, we've been really leading the charge and pushing forward with the same initiative on the non-lethal front, and that's kind of the next evolution into a blue ocean for Liberty Dynamic.
Where did the idea for this come from?
The enabling technology, and this is another thing that I really want to unpack at some point during this conversation. The federal government dumps billions and billions of dollars into federal research initiatives. A lot of those are not taken out of a research lab and commercialized properly. So if you think of scientists and researchers, these are not business people. These are people that just like to research. Our enabling technology for Liberty was originally developed in a research lab, and nothing was ever done with it. It wasn't properly commercialized, and it was just some brilliant tech. Millions of dollars was spent on it, and it was just sitting there right for the picking. Taking the enabling technology, repackaging it with the insider information that I have when it comes to use cases, allowed us to go out and properly commercialize what was previously federally backed research. Fast forward, this was 6 years ago, fast forward to present day, there is massive movement within the federal research community. This includes university research, this includes NASA, Sandia, Los Alamos, all these federally backed research labs that has tons of patents that they are looking for entrepreneurs to come in, take these patents or take this technology and properly commercialize it. If you go to NASA's website right now, you can go through and literally it's a shopping cart of pre-existing NASA IP that hasn't been properly commercialized, that you as an entrepreneur, as a business person, can strike up a very, very reasonable licensing agreement and go out and take that. So, oh man, I don't have the dollars, I don't have the time. Well, there is billions of dollars of great tech that just hasn't been taken out of a research environment to go forward. And we can discuss that later.
So this is new to me. I had no understanding of this. So almost anybody can go to one of these websites and find an opportunity or a plan that wasn't fully executed, and if they have the right business model put together, theoretically, they can pick that up and run with it with funding?
Without funding.
Without funding.
So you, as the entrepreneur, will have to figure out how to commercialize it. It is, here's the enabling technology, here's all the test data, here's the rights to the patents. You go forth and figure it out. So you will have to utilize that and under your fundraising mechanism. But that also speaks pretty highly of you. Be like, hey, I'm looking for money. Oh, I have a $15 million IP portfolio that we have licensed at X rate in perpetuity to bring this to market. Here's my business plan. Here's the enabling technology. Give me a couple bucks. I'm going to go at full sprint. There's another program that Ensign puts together, and they actually build out the startup team. And they do this on a biannual basis where you apply and they look at the three profiles of what it takes to start a company: the creative, the technical, the business person. And so they look at your background, they mate you up with other co-founders that they think would be you'd be successful with, and then they help you identify federally backed research dollars and pretty much construct a team. And they are looking for a wide variety of backgrounds, from high school, military, PhDs, gender diversity, background diversity, because what startup teams actually take is like, you don't want to find a buddy that looks like you, talks like you, and doesn't augment you in a very different way. Like, you want a founding team that is completely diversified, that complements your strengths, and their programming is really looking and trying to pull on those threads of forcing you into a co-founder relationship with people that again will plug the holes that you don't have as an entrepreneur.
And was that the route that you went for funding, or did you come up with your own plan?
Came up with my own plan initially on Liberty Dynamic, on the non-lethal. So the funding mechanism, working overseas as a defense contractor, you have no expendable income. I'm sorry, you have basically no expenses whatsoever. So all you're doing is just stacking. So for me on Liberty, I pushed the company to a point at MVP, so a minimal viable product that actually had teeth behind it. So self-funded, blood, sweat, and tears, and my own resources before I went out to seek a high net worth individual for an investment into Liberty. So basically, I was able to launch Liberty on a friends and family raise without any subsequent funding. But we had federally backed research dollars that actually did perpetuate some other initiatives that we can get into those, because I have been very successful with the medical company utilizing non-dilutive capital in that manner. So both companies took a little bit of a different path on funding, but I think with a lot of people, it is there's all these different antics where don't use your own money, play with other people's money. I think there's some value in that, but to get the proper terms, to get people to trust in what you're doing, getting your idea, getting your product, getting your services to a certain point that you can showcase either technical viability, some sort of customer penetration before going asking for money, you're in a much better position.
And I want to take a step back and earmark something, just so the listeners understand, and so that I understand as well. You said that you had funded it with, or I heard that you had funded it with independent contracting.
Yes.
What is independent contracting?
I had a very fortunate experience in the military. I was able to knock out a ton of different schools that allowed me, when I decided to get out of the military, to jump straight into defense contracting. Historically, where I jumped into in defense contracting, it was guys with 8, 12, 16 years of special operations background in different capacities to onboard. But through networking, through the rapid succession of schools that I went to in the military, I was able to jump into some pretty excitable and well-paying defense contracting opportunities. That whole experience was about 8.5, 9 years overseas. This is jumping in between Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Turkey, was pretty much my primary area of operation. During that time was my exposure to technology and how technology can impact in a defense setting. So first company, most people are aware of Blackwater. This was a subsidiary, kind of an offshoot of Blackwater, where I cut my teeth, but very rapidly realized that I was not moving forward in the direction that I wanted to in a future professional sense. Like, yeah, was it fun? Grow out our beards. We, run and guns, with very little oversight, small team, embedded with local militia or the Afghan border patrol. So as far as like the excitement level, absolutely, top notch, but at some point, gunslinging and tactical training, where is that going to get me later in life? And so I made a very strategic decision to pivot and move into a company called SAIC, Science Application International Corporation. This organization, it's a multi-billion-dollar company, tens of thousands of employees, but our small business group was responsible for the integration of technology all across the battle space. And so this is combat outposts, forward operating bases, embassies, making sure that the physical structure of these facilities were properly fortified through technology. So whether it is biometrics or cameras or anti-tunneling, barriers on the ECP or the entry control point. So a wide variety of different technologies all networked together. And the other interesting thing about that particular contract was during the buildup of Iraq and Afghanistan, the U.S. government was just dumping billions and billions of dollars into pieces of technology that weren't originally designed to work together. And this is really good for me to understand at a later point in what I'm doing now. So when you have a single piece of kit that is procured that is not part of a larger ecosystem, doesn't have a sustainment package, doesn't have any type of training package, it is just a thing, and it was never properly fielded. And we, as a government, did this over and over again. And so we had billions of dollars of equipment that was never properly fielded, never pushed into the field because it wasn't the foresight to make it all work together was never there. So our particular business group took all of this existing equipment, all of this technology that was originally there, figured out how to make it talk to each other. So cameras that weren't supposed to be networked with biometrics, that weren't supposed to be networked with ground sensing, anti-tunneling or barriers, hacked it all together and then redeployed it. So it was a really eye-opening experience of governmental spending, but how you can actually make a project come together, and then ran that for a multitude of years. That was defense contracting money that ultimately I utilized to jumpstart my company.
And what was it? So it sounds like it was an insane learning experience. You were able to travel. From the outside looking in, it sounds like it was an exciting, fun opportunity. What was it, or at what point did you make the decision that I need to get out of this, or I need to make a change?
Without getting too crazy political, the last stint was Iraq and Syria, and so I had spent most of my time, and this is a majority of my 20s. A lot of my youth was spent in Afghanistan. Took a contract as we as a government turned over all of our infrastructure in Iraq back to the government of Iraq in a very short amount of time. I don't know if people recall, ISIS and Daesh. The government of Iraq lost a lot of the country back to ISIS and Daesh in a very short succession. And so when I moved over to Iraq, we were literally retaking facilities, infrastructure, billions, trillions of dollars of taxpayer money. We're retaking things that we just turned over a few years prior. So just the kind of a defeatist mentality of kind of what are we doing here? Like this didn't work 2 years ago. Now we're redoing the same thing. At that time, this is 2017. We're doing a drawdown in Afghanistan, and I'm seeing, again, a majority of my 20s were just spent in this country, and we saw the failure of what we just did in Iraq. Now we're retaking Iraq, and we're doing the exact same thing in Afghanistan of a very poorly executed draw out. And I was like, man, I enjoy what I do. I think there's, amazing people, but at that point it was just kind of, what are we doing here? I think that was the ultimate pivot for me to come back and see if I can make a difference within those communities, but from an entrepreneurial standpoint.
So I'm going to jump around a bit, and before I continue going backwards, I want to move forward. So you've got the contract experience, you've got the special forces experience, and you're learning the technical background on how to connect different cameras or security or computers, and you're gaining a wealth of knowledge out there. At what point after Liberty Dynamic do you decide to found SimWorks? And how did that come about? What was the vision?
This is something that I am struggling with now, and making sure that going forward I have more of an executable plan. The company was started by accident, and it is escalating and running at an incredible rate of speed. There was not a business plan. There was not this is how I'm going to execute, but we have been able to find a niche, an underserved community, and it is going gangbusters. And it's the entrepreneurism is a combination of luck, skill, and right time. And we're kind of in this vortex right now, which is awesome for the team and the future growth of the company. And what I say by accident, originally, and we still have a nonprofit arm of the medical training company. But we started a cadaveric skills lab in Denver, Colorado. Not really well thought out, but it is something that I took tremendous insight from my military medical training, defense contracting training, on the use of cadavers. It is a brilliant learning canvas on how to understand anatomy, how to properly execute different life-saving interventions. A 501c3 not-for-profit is not eligible for research dollars, at least in the capacity that we're looking for the DoD. We found that out through applying for a specific initiative, and they're like, "Oh, you're a nonprofit, you're not eligible." And that's
DoD is Department of Defense, correct?
Correct.
Not all of us are as well versed as you on some of these terminology of this terminology. So I got to make sure I'm on the same page. Okay, so DoD.
I'll take it easy on the acronyms. And so that basically forced our hand to splinter off a new company in a for-profit arena in medical training, and that's the accidental company that was formed out of just an inability to operate at the capacity we wanted to as a nonprofit. That company has been very, very fortunate to move through non-dilutive capital opportunities to answer needs in the medical training arena. What I mean by non-dilutive capital, so non-dilutive capital specific to the Department of Defense, there's non-dilutive capital in pretty much every federal sector. This is Department of Transportation, Department of Energy, space. I mean, every federal entity has non-dilutive capital that they make micro investments into industry, i.e., private businesses, to create new products that will ultimately be sold back to the federal government as a customer. So non-dilutive capital. We have an amazing hit rate for our proposals to award. And this is from my team's deep understanding of the technology barriers, the capability gaps, and like what the end user needs. And so when I do a little bit of mentoring, and when I talk to other companies, and we're operating at a 75, 80% hit rate on our proposals and our conversion of our technology to paying customers, they're like, that's unheard of. Like, how do you make these, like, how are you, like, what are you using to write your proposals? Do you use a third party? It's like, no, I write the proposals with my team. Like, we run the directives, but it's really understanding how it's going to be implemented. So, 15 minutes ago, we were talking about all these researchers that develop technology that's not properly commercialized. We're, quasi researchers, but we know we have an exact dotted line to that commercialization. We have the end user in mind. We're constantly surveying our customers, understanding their pain points, and solving problems for them. And so this is the overly used anecdote, but are you developing a vitamin or a painkiller? A vitamin I can go 3 days without taking it. I don't have to, if it crosses my mind, like I'll adopt it. Or a painkiller, if I go 6 hours, I'm like, all right, I messed up. And so we're really, really trying to, anything that we do is define it as a painkiller. Like, what problem do you have very, very specifically? And then how can we solve it?
So I do want to touch, because I didn't include that you're also a sales guru, and the importance of a painkiller versus a multivitamin, and the importance of serving a need versus a nice to have. And you had mentioned the underserved market. Who was that market that you went after?
Pre-hospitalists, and where this is, so point of injury. This in the civilian sector, this could be from the EMT that's first to scene in a car accident, the paramedic on a flight for life that's taking you to level 1 trauma center. So pretty much anything from point of injury to a higher echelon of care is the niche that we are focused on. A lot of technology companies, you look at the ED or the emergency department or the ER or the ICU, physicians, senior clinicians, big scale hospitals. There's a ton of money there. There's a lot to be said about operating in that space. However, that's a lot more crowded space. There is a lot of different well-funded companies that's where they target. Our well-defined market segment is something that I'm trying to be hyper focused on. Do this right, service this particular niche or this particular customer base, and then expand from there. So you have the civilian sector, EMTs, paramedics, and then on the Department of Defense side, this is combat medics, any type of austere medicine that you do not have access to a physician. You might not be able to get a patient, a casualty, to a field hospital in a certain amount of time. And then we start kind of expanding out from that. You look at Doctors Without Borders, USA, rural medicine, all these different communities that have moderately skilled medical personnel, but not with a full suite of technologies or a specialist that can come in and save the day. So making sure that those communities are properly trained. And then this next big push is what we're currently really pushing forward on is pulling in machine learning, artificial intelligence to augment those individuals, offload some of their cognitive burden, and provide the right information at the right time for the highest level of patient survivability. And we have been working on this for about a year, and the latest hype cycle of artificial intelligence, and it has been really advantageous for us, because before people are just like, oh, what is this AI thing, or what does this mean? And now, being able to talk with, whether it's a senior physician or senior military personnel, like they now have a general sense of what AI augmentation can bring to the table, whether you're playing with ChatGPT or Midjourney or DALL-E, all these different things. There's like so many people now have a much better understanding. It's been a very lucrative environment for us to pour just massive gasoline on this research initiative. But again, constrained to the that niche market.
And can you give me an example of AI augmentation? Or what's the user experience that you're serving?
Absolutely. So our first wave is not even necessarily AI. Not everything needs to be solved with AI, but what we're building is called Medic Copilot. So when you look at how Microsoft is dubbing their Copilot, or GitHub, or these different Copilots, it is taking a variety of applications and giving you access to the information you need as rapidly as possible. So there's, decision trees, there's different ways that it's not necessarily just straight artificial intelligence. So our first wave of what we're doing, I would assume that you've played around with ChatGPT. Everybody at this point, fastest growing, application, in human history. It was
Yes, I
trained.
have. Yes, I have.
It was trained on the open crawl. So we don't know how it was properly or how it was trained. And specific to medical, and what's so dangerous about it right now is on the open crawl and the hallucinations that everybody's talking about. If you ask ChatGPT a question, particularly about medical, you might get a great answer. You might get a hallucination that sounds so good, but it's completely false because it was, trained on an episode of House or Grey's Anatomy, and is pulling like some bullshit that it learned against, some medically peer-reviewed and mushing it together in this hyper intelligent way, and people believe it. It's hard not to believe. You're like, this thing is speaking gospel. So we're taking a step back from that, and there's a lot of people that are fine-tuning foundational models or large language models, and so we are containerizing basically the large language model within approved medical guidelines specific to our end user. So this first phase, there's flavors of AI in it, but we are basically going to allow medics to have a conversation with their protocols or guidelines that are specific to them. And a lot of people that aren't in the medical space, and we'll glaze over this, but you have guidelines, which are like kind of the rough left and rights of where you should operate in. And then you have your protocols at a lower clinician level. Your medical director tells you, these are your protocols. You shall not go outside of your protocols because I'm responsible as a medical director. This is what I need you to do. And those are different all over the world, all over the country. County to county. Everybody has different protocols. And so we are allowing that end user medic to, through a conversational tone, have a conversation with their protocols that are assigned to them. So in a given circumstance, I have this type of injury or these multiple injuries or these unknowns that I have, being able to rapidly query the information that's specific to you. So augmenting you with the information that's relevant to you that you can trust. That's our first step in where a lot of people are talking about this is explainable AI. So you have ChatGPT, that's a black box. I don't know the information of how it got presented to me. Explainable or auditable AI is providing references or documentation for how it got to what information is being provided to you. And that's where, medical arena needs to be in that space. You have to, if I'm a medic and I'm asking a question, to having a conversation with my protocols, I need to know that it's just not hallucinizing and providing me Grey's Anatomy medical advice.
Mm-hmm. And so thank you for the download on that. This serves a ton of information for me to better understand exactly what it is you're developing, because we talk about it in light, but now I have a better grasp on the market you were serving. And if I can ask, so with this technology, I understand there was the underserved market as far as medics, EMTs, people that don't have PhDs that might need to be in a situation where they are saving someone's life. What was the original end user, or where did you go where they initially said, we need this here? My assumption is it was military, but I'll let you tell me how that started.
It is. We're running at a very quick clip in a very bad way to the next war. And this isn't just because I have a military background or I'm left or right. There's a lot of indications that we're in a head-on sprint to what the military is calling LISCO, or large-scale combat operations. And this is with a peer or near-peer competitor. For the last 20 years, when I was in where I did all my defense contracting, it was not a peer or not a near peer. We owned the skies, we owned the roads, kind of. But why that's applicable to medicine. So if I If my team had a casualty or an injury, the prior medical protocols were taught to keep somebody alive for 60 minutes. So my depth of knowledge only had to satisfy 60 minutes of keeping somebody alive. That stop a bleed, establish an airway, package up, because I'm calling to my higher command and they're sending a helicopter, or we have MRAP or some sort of vehicle to get that person back to a higher echelon of care. 60 minutes, dust off my hands. That casualty is in someone else's problem. In a LISCO, or a large-scale combat operation, I say we very loosely, the DoD is pontificating that we will no longer have air superiority. Air superiority is very advantageous to getting casualties off the X and to a higher echelon of care. And the same can be said about routes and on the ground. So now that 60 minutes, that for the last 20 years, that is what we have taught, has now been extended to 72 hours. So 1 hour, 72 hours, 60 minutes, 3 days. So the depth of knowledge that same 18-year-old kid or 26-year-old senior leader medic has to know has been amplified tremendously. So if you think from a civilian setting, like how many people you see if you're severely injured in 72 hours, from the EMT through the trauma physician, through an ICU nurse, yada, yada. Like you're going through the gamut of 72 hours. How do you do that in a pre-hospital setting with the same people with limited resources in a combat environment? It's very, very difficult. And so this new 72-hour window is what we're actively trying to solve. So during that LISCO environment where, it is, if we have multiple casualties, multiple injuries, limited resources, how do you offload the cognitive burden to a medic that has been up for 3 days, that they're not making mistakes, that having a proverbial angel on your shoulder that is able to fact check you, hip check you, be able to provide some support in those environments to make those tough decisions. Telemedicine has come a long way. So basically phone a friend, like, hey doc, I'm in a shit sandwich. Like, what do I do? Again, a peer and near peer threat. We are suggesting that we're going to be in a cyber degraded environment, meaning you don't have that phone a friend. And then for us, the applicability to Doctors Without Borders or USAID, if you're in the heart of the Sierra, or you're in Djibouti, or you're in different locations where you might not have the ability to reach back out and ask for telemedicine support, whatever you have with you is the resources that you have. And then there's a recent release from the WHO, by 2030, this is worldwide, they are hypothesizing or predicting that we're going to be in a personnel shortage for healthcare at a 10 million deficit. That's a lot of people that we're not going to have access to in a healthcare setting. And this is from the retention rate, new people going into healthcare, different populations rising and gaining, baby boomers, like this, the need for this many more healthcare professionals is at a massive deficit. So augmenting the people that we have now. And if you kind of zoom out, when it starts going into more clinical settings, you have a specialist for every single different thing. My stepfather, lung cancer, and just for him to go through from initial diagnosis to second opinion, through the whole gamut of to treatment. I mean, I don't even know how many people that he saw, 15, 16, like all these different specialists, all these different opinions, there's going to be a movement for a more generalized approach to medicine, and then augmented with an AI specialist to help you as a physician without the need to have specialist in every single discipline, because it's not realistic to have a single physician expected to know all this. I mean, your brain can't take that in.
Of course. And so I promise I didn't set this up this way. I didn't set you up for a trap. I need to walk through some steps here, and this is where this will fall into the sales side of things, because what you did in this situation, or what you were able to uncover, was you found the pain, you found a compelling reason to come up with a solution, and that compelling reason is, we need to save lives, and the quantification, if you will, or the scale that needed to happen was they needed to be able to keep someone that has been seriously injured alive for 72 hours, which is a 72x. So we've got the gap and we've got the compelling reason. The urgency is as soon as possible, and this is government funding should you have the correct solution. What was the solution? So I hear augmented AI and I hear cadavers. What is the solution that has been put in place to help these first responders, these EMTs, these people out in the field in the military? What has been put in place for them to be able to 72x their knowledge or their capabilities of keeping someone alive?
So right now, it is just training.
Okay.
We are either supporting tier 1 training elements or conducting the training ourselves. That insight is what is allowing us to rapidly iterate and develop our technology solution. So the technology is still in R&D, getting closer and closer to beta. The training aspect for us as an organization is very, very unique. There's a lot of technology companies that operate in a silo. They're in their cubicles, they're working from home, whatever it is, that they're not interfacing with the customer. They're not out there grinding. They're not out there talking. The fact that we have longstanding relationships with all the communities that we've been talking about in a training capacity allows us to really, really unpack what we need to build. What's also unique about us is, since we've developed this community of giving and training, when we go to commercialize our product, we go back to the same people that gave me the inspiration, the same people that have the technology barrier, or they needed this solution. And I turn right back around and be like, hey, beta customers, lighthouse customers, early evangelists, early adopters, remember that problem that you said? Here's a solution for it. And that can be extrapolated to a lot of different business principles, where we are developing relationships, we're providing value, we're giving, we're making an impact immediately on what they need now. And then when we go to monetize and sell our services or sell our technology, those relationships are already there. We already have a founded level of trust just from already working with them. But then also, you're not a snake oil salesman. Like, you're coming in with exactly what they need.
Mm-hmm. You're coming in with the correct solution based off what they've expressed the needs for. Exactly. And this is the last piece, or at least for this portion, that I'm going to touch on SimWorks. So you've got the solution and you get it out to the military first, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So I take that back. So we could do both, and we are trying to. I'm already very, very stretched thin with 2 different companies. And then when you start looking at different customer personas and figuring out where you want to launch your product first, in a picture perfect world, we are authorized and encouraged to commercialize in the civilian sector and the DoD at the same exact time. So one of the things, and I'm not just like chest thumping DoD funding opportunities, but it's been great for us, and highly recommend people to look into it, is this all started, 2015, there's a big movement. Former Secretary of Defense kind of pushed this out, great keynote speech at Stanford. But he basically was saying that we as a government are no longer inventing GPS. We're no longer inventing internet. We have so much bureaucracy that and the cost of things is so astronomical. Like, we have to change and put a lot of these things into motion of bringing private industry and our ability as industry to innovate and run at a much faster clip at a much lower rate. And one of those pieces was, all right, Lockheed, Boeing, Raytheon, name one of the juggernaut companies. Like, we're not going to give you $1 billion for this specific thing. We're going to take that $1 billion and chop it up to 1,000 startups or 1,000 industry partners and make all these little micro investments. Some of them are going to flop. Some of them are going to be great. But that $1 billion can go a much longer direction than just keep on dumping it to the easy button with Lockheed. With that, the government is also saying, we don't want to create the next Lockheed or Raytheon that is completely reliant upon the tit of the DoD. We want you to commercialize this technology that we help you develop, make money to substantiate and sustain yourself, because we don't want you, industry, to be completely reliant on us, because we might not need your solution for a year, or we don't want you to charge us 10x what it should be because you need to pay for all your expenses just off of DoD money. So to answer your question, we have full rights. It's encouraged for us to commercialize in the civilian sector at DoD at the same time. It is just now, like, when this comes to all the different types of principles of how you roll out and how you launch a software company, and keeping the constraints on it initially, as you get prepared to fully scale, and making sure that you solve one customer's need before really pushing it far out.
Sorry, it cut out there. What was the last thing you said? There was that lapse in the internet.
So basically just making sure that we satisfy our first launch with our specific DoD customer before we start going civilian medicine.
Okay. So I'm going to do a rewind, and we're going to go back in time. So I wanted the listeners to hear you speak, and I wanted them to hear how eloquently you speak about the technology. You've got acronyms. You don't use any ums. There's no ends. There's no buts. You're so confident in what you're carrying. And I'm going to pull this story out of you. I know the story, and we're going to play around with this a little bit. But for a listener that they can't see you and is just hearing this go-getter, smart dude, I wish they could see you. So John is this tall, good-looking, charismatic, amazing dude. And if you were to rewind, can you remind me, were you the valedictorian in high school? What was number one or number two in your class?
No, didn't carry that title.
And did you, after high school, did you have any honors awards, anything like that?
Not to speak of, no.
Okay. Did you pass high school with flying colors, or was it more like you made it by the skin on your teeth?
Somewhere in between.
Okay. And so you fast forward, you jump from high school and you go to, we don't need to use any university names unless you feel like talking about it, but you find yourself at your first college. And can you give me a little bit of background of how that goes for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's people that want to go to college. They want to perpetuate their growth mindset or acquisition of knowledge. Was not on my agenda at that point in time. I chose a school for the social activities and my friends that went there, and that was pretty much my north guiding star for college at that point in time. Did I have an appetite for going to class? Absolutely not. Did I excel? 100% not. It was not the right choice for me at that point in time. It was the community I feel like we grew up in. That was just the expected next step. Military was never talked about as an option. Trade schools weren't talked about as an option. It was collegiate
Frowned
athlete.
upon.
Frowned upon.
Frowned
Yeah,
upon. Yes.
without question. And we
Yes.
grew up in an environment where they take away home ec. I can't even remember. I feel like they took away metal shop and wood shop and
They
like
did.
all these different hands-on trades.
They did.
Like it's terrible. Like that's absolutely atrocious.
Yeah. So this came up recently. Someone asked me about home ec, and they said they used to cook in high school. I said, well, I didn't have that. I did have jewelry class. That was one of them. But
And pottery.
yeah, but different schools, and based on the demographic of where we grew up, that was not a focus. That was poo-pooed upon. Why would you go that way when you have all of these opportunities to be elite in what we consider elite? Mm-hmm. And so you're at the university, and do you graduate in 4 years flat, or do you have to extend to 5?
Neither. Yeah. So one university was didn't satisfy it. So I am good about trying to make change, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. There's something initially in me that identified a need for a change. I have now, as later in life, like acknowledge what that is, or what that nagging, sleepless nights or the little bit of anxiety of like, okay, let's acknowledge it. What are you doing that now needs to pivot? At an earlier age was too immature to recognize what those were, hadn't been coached properly. But so pivoted from the first university to another university.
How long did you take before you made the pivot?
Year
and
and a
why?
half. Year and a half. Okay. At that point in time, hospitality was, trying to find some sort of what will be interesting to me. Okay. I like restaurants. I like going to clubs. I like staying in hotels. Like hospitality sounds great.
Sounds fun. Yeah.
Yeah. What better place for a 20-year-old kid to go to hospitality school than UNLV in Las Vegas? And that was an experience that has defined the rest of my life without question. I mean, it was defined in a sense that it put me on a trajectory that has shaped the rest of my life.
And if you're okay with it, and we can edit anything out, but this is, I've been hearing this more so lately, but I've been hearing the statement or phrase, this is not happening to you when something is going wrong. This is happening for you. And in this situation, it absolutely changed the trajectory of your life in the most positive way. But do you feel comfortable sharing about what made that jump and what made you leave UNLV and led to the, I would say, hitting rock bottom and making the most radical change that you've made in your life?
Yeah, certain aspects of it I'm comfortable to share. So getting into UNLV, going to Vegas, rapidly understood, whether it was working at a restaurant, did some things at a hotel, that is not the arena that I wanted to be in. Being on the servant side versus the recipient side, was like, all right, that was a bad mistake. But hey, I'm already in Vegas, living with friends. Let's make the best of this experience as possible. And as a 20-year-old kid, and you're in the service industry, everything in Vegas becomes free. VIP hosts and bartenders and bouncers, and so you all of a sudden, with very, very limited resources, can act like a king in Vegas. So brilliant experience. During that time, I am, call it luck or decent with numbers, really started getting heavy into gambling, and the notion of money at that point became comical in the sense that I had no appreciation for it. I mean, I was having $10,000, $20,000, $70,000 swings in a single night as a 21-year-old kid. My player's card, I'm sure it's expired, obviously, is still under my it's still under my fake ID's name. Like we were pushing at such a radical op tempo, and then when you are 20 years old. Vegas is basically free at that point, and now you have just a massive amount of disposable income. You start flexing that and making different decisions that get you into different circles that ultimately led to me being in a very uncomfortable situation that I didn't know how to handle myself. And that was a feeling that I never wanted to experience again. Long winded, was held against my will in an environment that I could not escape from at that point. And, different sequences of events happened that was ultimately let go, and but that resonated with me. That was a incredibly low point in what I was doing, how I felt completely demasculated in this type of situation, that something needed to change. That was not it for that story. So I ended up going out to a family's friend cottage to just kind of escape from that feeling, and I was still on a destructive path. At this point, I'm still young. I still should be respecting the rules that were set forth to me by the family friends whose house I was staying at. And it was just a complete disregard or lack of care of people telling me what to do, and let them down very, very hard. And that combination of about a 3.5 month stint is what made me acknowledge that I needed to pivot, and without telling friends, without telling family, enlisted into the infantry of the Marines. And that was probably an answer to still being in a destructive path, because at this is 2008, 2009, the Afghanistan war is still in full uptick. And joining the infantry in America's fighting force, like I was ready to I was ready to go, die or otherwise. Like I was at a full sprint. So even my decision to join the military was slightly selfish, not altruistic, that I'm going to go and support my country. Everybody joins the military for different reasons, and you've got the red, white, and blue that they grow up and they're going to be patriots. That's amazing. A lot of the people, not a lot, I mean, there's a majority of people in the military, they join for different reasons. And then once I got into the military is really what shape-shifted my life, and not even respect for authority, because I still run from that, but having a cause, having discipline. It was the Marines specifically have an amazing indoctrination program to strip your identity and then rebuild you up. It is as much as all the inner competition between the forces. You ask any Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps boot camp is the gold standard. It level sets and turns people around into a new person. And there's obviously shitheads that come out of the military and the Marines and whatnot, but for the most part, that rebuilding of routine and discipline and physical fitness, all those type of things are what truly has made a foundational pivot for me and has gotten me to where I am now.
So thank you for sharing that. And I want to go back just a little bit. You said something I don't want to skim over. So you said very uncomfortable and something along the lines of held against your will. In other words, were you kidnapped?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So you were kidnapped and you were able to get out of it?
It was yeah, I was able to get out. The heightened state of arousal of the entire situation ended up dissipating after about a day and a half, which ultimately led to my release, or me feeling in a position that I could leave without massive repercussions at that point.
So you jump from there, you have another not great experience, and now you're in the Marine Infantry. What was the tipping point? What made you pursue Special Forces? Because thinking back with, going to college, that wasn't a major focus. You weren't focused on learning at that time, or you weren't mature enough to embrace the education that was around you. But you could have, and I don't want to say, I want to be clear on this. There's not going to be any easy road in the Marine Corps. Let's establish that. But you chose to go down a different path. What was the catalyst at that point? Because as the story progresses, you getting into the military and going to Special Forces changed everything from your drive, your outlook, the way you approach things. I'm going to let you tell this more than me, but your self-image, your confidence, everything changed at that point. So what made you jump into Special Forces?
So a quick level set, just for factual relevancy. Special operations, special forces is thrown around in kind of a loose term. In the Marine Corps, it was one of the only fighting forces that did not have a special operations for a very long time. It's U.S. SOCOM had a element within the Army, within the Air Force, and within the Navy. For a very long time, the Commandant of the Marine Corps did not want a special operations forces within the Marines. They had something that was called reconnaissance or force reconnaissance. During when I was getting in, that reconnaissance and force reconnaissance route is the trajectory that I went since MARSOC, Marine Corps Special Operations Command, has been formed. It's a very, very young organization that now falls under U.S. SOCOM. But just for military buffs, yeah, the forced reconnaissance route is the direction that I went. But it is the same pipeline. It's the silent professionals. Like we went to, like, all of our indoctrination training is on Coronado. It's the same military base that BUDS and the SEALs go through. Jump school, dive school, sniper school, SEER school, mountain rescue school. It's the entire breadth of the special operations pipeline, just held by, at the time, Marine Corps Special Operation Group. But force reconnaissance is a more accurate vernacular for the trajectory that I went. That in the military is you don't control your own destiny. It's a very interesting feeling. Everything is timing and the needs of a higher authority of where they need you to be. So the active decision for me had not been made at that point in time yet. I've not super religious, but there's been so many circumstances in my life from a whole multitude of things that have kept me alive for whatever reason. Within the Marine Corps, the initial early on, I don't look past the sequence of events that ultimately led me down the path. I was hurt in boot camp, just shy of tearing my knee, running at night, hit a hole, whatnot. Ended up going into a 3-month rehabilitation in boot camp, which is a miserable existence, because a lot of the people that are in it, they made the bad decision or they felt they made the bad decision. So people are on suicide watch, and it's all these Marine Corps dropouts. There's 10% of us that were actually hurt. The rest of these guys were just faking things. So this is the bottom of the barrel, just miserable people to be around. And I was there for 3 months going through rehabilitation. But that 3-month hiatus from graduation. So ended up graduating boot camp as at the top of my class in boot camp. Was the honor grad. These different things of just that 3 month of just like truly stripping me down to absolutely nothing, because you're not going through training, you're not doing anything. Like you wake up, there's nothing for you to do. You're hurt. You're at this like indoctrination camp. Like you wake up and there's a brass pole on the wall. Like, you know what you're going to do for the next 12 hours is you're going to shine this brass pole wall. Okay. Like they're like just trying to figure out things just to keep you like just busy. And you can see they're not going to let you just, lay in bed hurt, but like something to your ailment, like that's what you can do. So can you sit? Cool. You're going to sit here and scrub this
whatever
fucking
you can
pole.
do, we're going to make you do.
And so it was just like that 3 months was like the most mentally challenging thing. Because like in regular boot camp, you're up at 5, you're dog shit tired at 9, you're going to bed and you're just doing. You're training. Now take all that away and you're just like, you're just in this existence and staying up at night because you get assigned a buddy that is trying to commit suicide. Just a very odd experience. But that 3 month hiatus, if I would have graduated on time, like who knows what deployment I would have caught, what opportunities, what schools. There's just, to replicate a military trajectory, especially early on, it's just very, very hard. So I say that when I got out of medical rehabilitation, got to a new platoon, graduated as a class leader. At that time, the reconnaissance community was taking people basically directly out of boot camp, making sure they went to the School of Infantry, and then after the School of Infantry, taking them and starting a pipeline into the reconnaissance community. 3 months prior, like that wasn't even an option.
It wasn't even on your. It wasn't an option at all.
It wasn't even a thing. And so
Wow.
now we're the first group of students that can go from boot camp, can go to the School of Infantry, and then can go straight to training for reconnaissance. And so now you have all these old hats, these guys that had to spend 4 years in an infantry battalion or cut their teeth elsewhere, looking down on us because they're like, all right, you guys haven't earned to be here. Like, what the fuck have you done? You haven't caught a deployment, and now you're just like your hands are being held and walking you to our community that we hold very, very closely. So we came into a community as like already a low man on the spectrum, but then even more resentment because they felt like we didn't deserve to be there. So now you're in this perpetual state of fighting for your right to be there, to earn the respect of these dudes that have had multiple pumps to Iraq, in an infantry battalion before they had the privilege of getting to go to a higher echelon of care. But so that standard of what these dudes held us to was elite athlete. Like their expectation, because we broke into their community, like at that point, undeservedly, was the reckoning. That was the okay. Like, this is how, if these guys are going to respect us, if these guys are going to take us into their fold, I've got to get at like next level when it comes to anything and everything that I do, from physical fitness to shooting to how I pack my rucksack to, everything was meticulous because those that bar had been set so high.
So you were forced into elite level performance just to make it. Because of this 3 month delay, you're up against, or at least the bar was set to, game ready, experienced athletes, and you're coming in just entering as a newbie trying to figure things out.
Correct. Yeah.
So there's two things that you said in it. I just want to make sure that I'm understanding this correctly. So had you not gotten hurt, this opportunity for force reconnaissance would not have been there for you.
It would not have. I would have went with the traditional School of Infantry, and then most likely caught a immediate deployment as a low-level infantryman in the Marines.
So blessing in disguise, and coming right after what I would what I would assume is a torturous experience, and that torturous experience is when you went into the what did you call it? The medic camp when you were injured. Where did they have you?
There's medical rehabilitation platoon.
So you're forced into being with. How many guys would be in a situation like that?
In our particular platoon, I think there was 20 of us, with a fraction being actually hurt, and then the rest faking the funk to try to get out of boot camp because it was a bad decision.
Okay, so you're isolated, and this goes into, we are the 5 people we surround ourselves with. So you're locked down for 3 months, and your daily task, you've just made this decision to go to the military. You get hurt, your inputs around you, or the overall energy, if you will, is suicidal, depression, fuck this, I don't want to be here. And what you get to look forward to as as someone that's new in the military is shine this pole for 12 hours. And that's what it was like for the first 90 days, correct?
Yeah.
How did you keep your shit together?
This has been
I would have been out of my fucking mind had I made that decision and been trapped there. That would have been like going to prison.
This has been something that is just held true, and there's things that I'm looking at like later in life on if I need to change this. We joke around, dumb enough not to quit. It is a stubbornness to persevere that has allowed me to get through so many different phases and chapters, seasons of my life. And it is that. I mean, it is purely just grit. I felt like I've been kicked in the teeth and been able to keep on going. And this is just that one more season of that. And the ability to not quit or not accept quitting is something that just it needed. I needed to fully embrace that, and I think it wasn't an option. There's also the like I had such a destructive path leading up to it. If I would have jumped on the same bandwagon as the depressed dudes or suicidal dudes, like also what am I going back to? Like I need to suck this up. I need to get on to the next evolution. But now, after that, I mean, fuck, you can do anything.
Yeah, for sure. And if you were, what we always hear, whether it's reading about it, watching a TED talk, talking to a high performer like you, the common theme, and it's not a secret at all, it's just, like you said, grit, is the difference between people that make it and don't is you just were potentially dumb enough to quit or refuse to accept failure. And if you keep showing up, it doesn't matter how high performer that person was. You look at Michael Jordan, he was cut from his high school basketball team. No one came out. If we rewinded back to you at 20, that version of yourself compared to this version of yourself in 2 screens, wouldn't even recognize them, wouldn't even be able to have the same conversation. And it's you showing up day in, day out with an open mind, ready to learn, ready to take failure, or not failure, ready to learn should you make a misstep, and always looking to pivot with at the very least, a positive outlook that if I keep showing up, they can't crush me. And I would very much attribute that for you, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but to them being the Marines, stripping you down and then rebuilding you back up, but into something that is now unbreakable, no matter what. Like, unless you are dead, you will keep going.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, what very, very well said. And the other thing with that is, with school and with the military, at least for me, people, especially with higher level education, like you need to know how to learn. You need to know how to accumulate knowledge and utilize that knowledge in a certain capacity. And I found that in the military. I'm sure people find that at university, or they find that through podcasts. They find that through, self-education on YouTube. It's like there's different ways. But if you have an innate interest or aptitude or capability to learn, I mean, that's when you really become like unstoppable. And that's where with me in the military, again, going back to this unchosen path, is my ability to and desire for learning and the ability to excel once I found something I was super interested in or was good at. That took off. And good, bad, or indifferent, for me, I would go to a school, one of the special operation group school, whether it's dive school or jump school or sniper school, like what I mentioned before, come out at the top of a class, and leadership were like okay, like, you're physically capable, you're mentally capable, here's the next school, and here's the next school, and here's the next school. And so for the next several years, all I did was go to school to obtain this knowledge, and this became this like just amazing thing of what you can obtain and learn in a hyper condensed amount of time. And the military did a great job of that, and now I've taken that further on. So if you look at EMT basic, it is in the civilian sector. I think it's 6 months, maybe 8 months. I did it 19 days in the military, like with the, like 13, 14 hour days, like you're just going absolutely balls to the wall. And, I tested out with the same national registry. I did my rotations. I did every single thing that a EMT basic needed to do that would have taken 6 to 8 months, because like you are hyper focused, that's all you're doing. You're living and breathing, obtaining this knowledge as fast as possible, testing out, and then on to the next thing. And like that type of accumulation of knowledge and skills is something that I've just been, striving for ever since. Like, okay, cool. Like it's going to take you 4 years to get a degree. Like, fuck that. Like, peel off all the superfluous stuff and like, let's focus in on exactly what is going to, make me better, emotionally better, physically better, business better. And I'm gonna fully invest my time, resources into that. Got it. All right, on to the next thing. And that's where I've just been in this persistent and perpetual pursuit of a growth mindset in that capacity. Because like what we have as individuals to have access to now, just like the amount of content and good content and learning from people that have been there and done that versus people that are just teaching what is supposed to be taught, is like no other time in human history. Obviously have we as business people, as entrepreneurs, had access to that. And like, if you're not taking advantage of it, like you're in the wrong, like 100%.
Mm-hmm. And so you said, you used a term that I love, and we talk about this pretty frequently here, but the growth mindset. So when you have a growth mindset, typically you will find that person hanging out in the growth zone. And the growth zone is past your comfort zone. It's not even on the edge of it. It's to where you realize, I'm going to fail, I'm going to make a mistake, but I'm going to keep coming back and I'm going to keep educating myself. Would you say, so based on your prior history to where you're at now, or what clicked for you in the military, and this is my little shit on at least the US education system, is you take an 8-year-old that doesn't want to sit through this class and doesn't want to do algebra or whatever it is, and they keep staring out the window because it's a sunny day, and you load them up with Ritalin and put them in special needs classes, or you say they're unfocused, they're distraction. But if you were to take that kid outside, maybe they're the best fucking tree climber there ever is, and they're passionate about plants or whatever it is that makes that little kid tick. Would you say that your hack, or for someone that's trying to get a growth mindset, would you encourage them to pursue not necessarily a passion, but just find something, whether it is against what society would be telling you to do, like get out of high school and go become a lawyer? Would you encourage them to just pursue whatever their interests are and push themselves in that interest and become a master of, whether it's underwater basket weaving? Would that be the direction you would encourage someone to do, to hang out and learn and feel comfortable being uncomfortable in the growth zone?
Maybe. And I think that you hit on a couple different points there, and like hard things suck, and passion and interest sometimes or could lead you to softer, gentler things. And I don't have a super firm belief on this, but when you have some entrepreneurs or some business people that do your passion and money will follow. And if you have purpose and you have passion, like that's all you need. I think there's something to that. There's something to needing to have a higher purpose of what you're driving to. But I think there's a lot of people that are you looking for work-life balance, or are you looking for work-life integration? I'm on the work-life integration. I don't really give a fuck about work-life balance. And hard things suck, and I am on a pursuit of helping a very niche community, whether it's in law enforcement, non-lethal, or pre-hospital trauma. But I want to make fucking money. And at the end of the day, like I have altruistic intentions, and I have been fortunate enough to have the communities that I serve that outward perception is like, oh, you're helping. I don't know, some people don't like law enforcement, but you're helping out law enforcement, you're helping out pre-hospital trauma. It's like, that's amazing. Yeah, absolutely. But I am also building a business to help those people, but to achieve a lifestyle that I want. And like that is for me a driving motivator. Like it's like the passion to wake up every morning and get kicked in the teeth and have 1,000 different fires that come across. And it's not, right now, it's not that I'm making a difference in these lives. There's going to be other companies that are going to come along and help these communities out. But for me, there's just something that I want to achieve as an individual performer that's going to allow me to maybe find my passion, or maybe find my philanthropy once I've attained a certain level of wealth that I'm setting and holding myself to. So with that, it's a tough one. Like I said, like if find your passion, find your interest. I think there's merit there, but people need to do shitty jobs. I'm part of the CEO circle that JP Morgan Chase puts on it's great. And they take 90 veteran CEOs from all over the country and put them together. And I'm in a cohort with one particular dude, and he owns janitorial services. Started it when he got out. He's out of Atlanta. Filthy rich, absolutely. Do you think he likes running a janitorial business? Like, no, but like, like, is he satisfying a need? Is he able to provide for his family? Is he retiring, at 50 with like an ungodly amount of money and running, but he didn't wake up or get out of the military and was just like, oh, what am I passionate about? Oh, that's what it is, cleaning shitters. But like he's doing great. He's going to be able to run with it. So I don't know, man. It's a tough one.
No, so and I'm really glad that you pushed back on that, because I'll clarify a bit as well. So I completely agree. Going out and finding a passion and just pursue that passion, that's not necessarily what I would encourage you to do. But giving the example where we're talking about hospitality in college, and that not really doing it for you, maybe your grades weren't there, maybe the focus wasn't on school. And then we're talking about sniper school and going to get your scuba license and doing the SF things. Those interest you, and none of those were easy. So I'm not saying skip past the difficult things, but if you just really have no interest, and this is where grit comes in. I'm not saying just quit, but if you're really uninterested in the topic, job, whatever that is, maybe find something that at least you have like a little bit of fun with. And if that is you want to open a bar, I'm going to use this as an example. You want to be a bartender at the best bar in New York, Miami, or Vegas. Go figure that out. And have the grit to be the barback or work as the host or be the janitor there for as long as it takes until you get that opportunity, but at least follow something that you think you could be somewhat good at or that you think you could somewhat have fun at. And maybe for the janitor that you're speaking of, maybe there was a time, I would actually say not maybe, he was probably a damn good janitor and realized like, holy shit, I've got a method here. Let me put together a process and I can replicate this. This is my thoughts. I have no idea. But there was something that he was somewhat good at some point for him to be as successful as he is. That's my thoughts.
So with that, I think there's a differentiation between, are you talking about how to sustain life and achieve wealth and provide for your family, or are you talking about trying to, achieve a lifestyle business or something that is just going to make you happy as an individual? And are you suggesting that if you become, good or happy as an individual, that could, onward and upward lead to, sustaining wealth or growing outside of that?
No, so not as much that. More so if I was faced with two opportunities, and we'll use being going into management consulting and working with sales companies, working with CEOs and coming up with a strategy to help them increase revenue, or me being a CPA. And there's nothing wrong with being a CPA. I just don't really like numbers like that. Mm-hmm. And I would feel as though it was dry if I was constantly working through spreadsheets and just dealing with crunching numbers and presenting what I came up with as a final answer. And there's some people that love that, and that's fun for them. I can say that I'm a gritty individual. I would fucking hate it. And I don't know that I would continue on that path if that's where I went for school. Whereas I enjoy the process of selling. I enjoy the methodology and the magic around question asking. And I enjoy helping companies grow and helping representatives that may be on the chopping block and turn them around to being a top salesperson. And it's not that I love working. Like in a perfect world, I wouldn't be working. I would have some sort of purpose, but that's just the separation of at least go somewhere. If you're a vegan, it's probably not going to be the best environment for you to work at a butcher shop, and plan on opening a butcher shop. So I'm not saying find a passion, but at least have something where it's not painful for you to show up to work every day.
And I think there's a lot of reflection that can go into that, and whether that comes with maturity or finding a mentor or finding somebody that can help you unpack that, but being cognitively aware enough to have those tough decisions, like, zap back to high school, and I can't even remember, like, do we, like, are there high school counselors or college counselors that are like supposed to help you think through these different things and whatnot, but like personifying that, I think there's something there. But there's also, at different seasons of your life, you're going to have different aspirations or different talents, or you're going to accumulate different things along the way. So even if at 17, 19, 25, like those, what you're good at, or what you're interested in, I think those can shapeshift and change. So as long as you're, in tune enough to acknowledge that, I'm with you. I think that is sound advice.
And so I'm going to rush as quickly through these last questions as we wrap up, because like I said, this can flow and we can go to time pretty quickly. But for our listeners, someone that is in a high-performing role like you, someone that has overcome adversity, what does your daily schedule look like? So you mentioned waking up, getting kicked in the teeth, dealing with 1,000 fires. What do you do from the second that your eyes wake up until the second that your eyes close on an average day?
So I will start with, there are high performers that wake up early. There's high performers that stay up late. There's, routine. It could cover, take 24 hours. Like, that doesn't matter. Like, doesn't matter. I hate the dudes that, up at 4, fucking grinding, like take a photo of their watch. Like, I mean, whatever. Like that's dumb, man. Like, I don't know. What if you're a nighttime physician and you're working swing shift? Like the 4 a.m. thing, like that whole mentality, like that doesn't do it for me. Do I get up early? I try to. For the clientele and the people on my team, morning is my quiet time. That is where my phone's not ringing. I don't have text messages coming in. We are not international yet, so I don't have, London pinging me. Mornings work for me as far as reflection and getting things done. So wake up, and these are things that I'm constantly putting in new things that I've learned and trying things. If it doesn't work, I can scrap it. But at least like now I have given it a try and see if it's going to work for me. Like one of the biggest ones for me is I don't use the alarm on my cell phone. I am trying to get to a point where I don't set alarm. I'm not there yet, but I don't use the alarm on my cell phone. My cell phone is charging in my bathroom, so it's away from me. So I have a different alarm because what I do or used to do is I'll wake up and grab my phone, and the first thing I do, all right, what has happened or what has transpired or what emails have come in from the East Coast, look at my calendar, and that's the tempo for the rest of my day. I'm in this reactionary state that I'm not controlling my own destiny for that day. And that was something that just, I wanted to change. So now you could have discipline, set the alarm on your phone and just be like, all right, I'm not going to check my phone until, an hour from when I wake up. I have just removed that temptation and it's just not there. So I have a second alarm clock that's next to my bed. That has re-given me at least 45 minutes in the morning to properly level set where I want the day to actually go. After waking up, honestly, man, I do a tiny bit of stretching, just get blood flowing, slam a glass of water. You're in, a dehydrated state. I have been messing around with a couple different, water mixture, whatever you want to call it, supplements, but in a powder form. On it, Alpha Brain. That's like I've bounced around it for a couple. That particular one, I like the company. I like the ingredients and their control of ingredients. But that just seems to be like a great little, clear the fog, jumpstart the brain. You're probably more.
Is that Aubrey Marcus?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so Aubrey started it, Rogan invested in it, and they put out some pretty good stuff, and they have like a whole line on all their different fungi supplements, and they're constantly pushing out really good stuff. So I'm a fan of that brand, but haven't been otherwise course corrected on if they're up to no good, but. Yeah, so get some sort of fluid rolling, and I've been trying to and not uptake caffeine immediately. There's been a lot of people that are chattering on the negative effects of first thing of getting caffeine in your body. So try to delay that gratification. And the other thing I think I skipped past is the need for sunlight, and trying to get that cycle started of getting woken up. I'm fortunate, I have a dog, so the first sunlight that I'm getting is mandatory because she needs to go out. But getting direct sunlight to start that morning process has been great. Living in Colorado, we have 330 days of
I was going to say, you're fortunate for that as well.
So that is nice. As a caveat to that, there is the surroundings for me personally, and listeners can judge me in whatever capacity on this. But I recently moved, and I moved for a specific reason to be more convenient for me. I'm traveling pretty much every week, heading to the airport. Denver, Colorado, the airport's about 45 minutes away, an hour away with traffic, but there's the light rail goes out there. And so hop on the light rail, and I can just work. I don't have to pay for an Uber, don't have to pay for parking, and I get an extra hour work on the way to the airport. The intentions were super strong. Hadn't really spent a lot of time on the light rail, but the particular station that I am near is a lot of dudes that are taking part in this current epidemic of fentanyl and opioids and whatnot. And yesterday morning, had a dude pressed up. I live on the ground floor for my dog. A dude sleeping on my porch, pressed up against my door, and that the first thing in the morning that I see is trying to have empathy, trying to have sympathy. But this dude's on my fucking porch. Yeah, he's in a bad position. Is it by choice or is it, whatnot? And, so this was yesterday, but, now in the morning when I'm trying to get sunshine, when I'm trying to get my brain right, there's just tweakers on the street, or there's fucking just like shoes. So the environment, I did it for convenience, but the environment of which trying to get my day started right. And this is selfish. And, it's impacting me. So I'm personally trying to figure out, is this impacting me in such a negative way that I need to break my lease and move? And that's kind of where I'm at. Or can I figure out a way to, I don't know, take this as a realization, all right, there's, look at it from a different perspective, use this as motivation. Not that I'm ever going to be on the street fucking smoking rocks. I don't even know what these guys are doing, but use that as a motivator to set my day straight and not let it ruin me for being pissed off that I'm stepping over a human shit on the sidewalk. So I'm struggling with that right now in my morning routine. Yeah.
How long have you been there?
About a month and a half in.
Okay, so a month and a half in. Can I make a suggestion?
Yep.
Okay, and then there's two schools of thought to this, and you could definitely have the suggestion or look at it through the lens of, wow, I'm so fortunate. Look at these people. I can wake up and have gratitude that fortunately I have a place and that I'm not sleeping on someone's doorstep and I've got a family who loves me and yada, yada, yada. What I would suggest to someone who is in your role with the amount of responsibilities and the amount of bandwidth that you need functioning out of your brain at all times, I'd get the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
Whatever it costs to break the lease, the ROI will be, I'm going to assume something around maybe 10,000x when your performance increases. Maybe on the low end, 10,000x of the breaking the lease and getting a moving company. But other than that, you will be happy. And just the fact that you've been there 90 days and you already noticed this issue is there, and now you're waking up and someone's actually against your fucking door.
Yeah.
Fuck that. And maybe it takes a compelling reason where something happens, like someone's trying to get in at night, and you say, all right, I'm done. But I think you'd probably, can you overcome this? Of course, we both know you can. Do you have the grit to do it? Of course. Should you do it? Yeah. Is it always worth, the obstacle is the way unless you can go around it. And if you can go around it, that also works too.
Yeah. But in this particular circumstance, I could not. He was leaned up against an outward swinging door. So, and not knowing the rights as a rentee on, private property versus my property,
right.
I'm probably the one that will get arrested for,
In Seattle, you would have. Yeah, for sure. Without a doubt. So you wake up, you've got your 90, I'm going to insert this. Are you using 90 minutes before you take in caffeine?
Hour, 2 hours. Yeah, typically.
2 hours.
Yeah.
So I'm doing it as well. Are you noticing a difference, a profound difference?
No, not like earth shattering. But there's some things that I'm trying to shape shift right now. I haven't been sleeping very well, and looking at different things that are impacting the sleeping. This will get back to the caffeine question. I don't particularly care for weight training in the morning. I can do cardio. I just can't for whatever reason. I've never liked just lifting heavy weights first thing in the morning. It's just, I wish I did. It's just not for me. And as a byproduct of that, I am working out later. And whether it's wanting to take some sort of amino uptick pre-energy for a workout, I haven't noticed the caffeine crash, good, bad, or indifferent in the afternoon. I think, and then so I don't have a baseline because I'm typically in the afternoon upregulating with another type of caffeine prior to a workout, and that is the lack of sleep. That like my sleep hygiene. We can get into sleep hygiene, but I'm trying to work out earlier to eliminate that afternoon caffeine kick, and then I'll see if the that waiting the 90 minutes actually makes a difference. But right now, I'm just doing it because it's recommended, but it hasn't like slapped me in the face and be like, "Oh, it's fucking awesome."
Yeah, yeah. So my experience with this, and I know it's not placebo effect because the researchers or the studies that put this out there, I firmly believe in. So maybe it's placebo on my end, but the difference that I notice is that by waiting 90 days to introduce caffeine into my system or reintroduce, there are mornings where I've made coffee the night before and I wake up and I'm 5 minutes out of bed, like my eyes are still half open, and I drink coffee. When I do that, I don't necessarily get the boost that I was expecting. And then when I remake a cup of coffee or I have another whatever, a cold brew, throughout the day, I just feel like it's not hitting the same. So the main difference I've noticed is at that 90-minute mark, when I do hit it, whatever that first hit of caffeine is, it just feels stronger. And I noticed that throughout the day, I'm drinking less cups. But I didn't do a proper control study before. There's some things that have changed in my life as well recently, so I can't say that it's just because of that one thing. But I do notice I was probably up like 6-8 cups of coffee a day throughout the entire day, and now I'm probably at 2. So that might be.
I mean, that's enough of a checkbox to keep on doing that. That's a lot of caffeine.
Yeah, it was a lot of caffeine, and and we're going to transition to sleep. But I was wondering, like, what the fuck is going on? And having that 4:30 p.m., 5 p.m. Coffee or 2 just to finish out the day, that was setting me up for failure with sleep. But in my pursuit, because I don't sleep that well either, I've been looking into some options to help me. What are some of the products or hacks or solutions that you're looking into to help with your sleep?
I mean, the sleep hygiene that, people reiterate this, from deregulating caffeine, 2 p.m., 4 p.m. if you're trying to get to bed by 9 or 10, that's just kind of Captain Obvious. So I'm trying to implement that. The notion of unwinding and making sure that you're starting to, if you're a workaholic, for me, tapering to creative work, more fulfilling work, planning for the next day as the end of day routine versus stressful work. Like I'm not responding to an angry email. I'm not, talking with my lawyer about, whatever, co-founder issue I have, purposefully doing tasks that are not going to spin me up as much as possible on that evening wind down. Blue blockers, people, we're biology, when the sun starts going down, your melatonin, yada yada, you're supposed to start getting ready for that sleep, as we are constantly staring at screens, whether you're unwinding with some sort of TV or you're dicking around on your phone. I try to religiously throw on blue blockers, Warby Parker, like the ones I'm wearing now.
I was going to ask, are those blue? Okay, so John's wearing glasses right now.
Yeah,
so these are clear with a blue tint.
Yeah, so these are blue blockers, but they also have staring at a screen, whether it's your computer or phone, throws on pretty hard fatigue. And so, we're in the middle of the day right now, so do I need to be wearing blue blockers? No, but I had a slight prescription put in these that help take the strain of staring at things at a center focal point, help relieve that strain of your eyes. And so this is for longer eye health, longevity is the intent. So they serve 2 purposes, is relieving computer strain from helping your eyes focus, and then blue blocker. So Warby Parker makes them. Smith sunglasses, you can do just blue blockers without a slight prescription. But the Warby Parker, it's make an online appointment, go to your local strip mall or wherever one might be, and get them in the mail, shortly after. Super simple run.
I will absolutely. I stare at a computer screen all day, so this is going to be I'll let you know my before and after, but I believe it'll be a game changer for me. And when you mentioned eye strain, and if there's ever a time where maybe I can help you or a listener out there, are you familiar with the 20-20-20 rule? Have you ever heard of that?
No.
So this is I might be incorrect with the company, but I'm pretty sure it is Pixar. And Pixar has a rule for their animators or whoever's doing the editing on their screen is every 20 minutes, look 20 feet ahead at least for 20 seconds. And I don't know if you notice this, but I keep looking up and I'm just looking straight ahead because when I'm focused in on you and I'm looking at you on the camera, I'm very strained into this little box. And when I'm looking right here, this little dot, it's straining for me. So I relax my eyes by looking out and just kind of letting them refocus. But that's something that helped me when I was just straight into a computer screen all day and having headaches afterwards. So, but the blue blockers, that's a better option.
Yeah, I had not heard of that. What was 20 minutes or 20?
20 minutes,
okay.
20 feet ahead, or it's something 20 feet away, and for 20 seconds stare. So let your eyes relax out to a further distance.
Does that mess with your flow state or like being in the zone on anything?
No. But that might be because I do it so much. Like, I don't know if you've seen, but I do. I pop my eyes up every once in a while, and I just look straight ahead because I can feel the strain.
Yeah, definitely. I'll find what the prescription is on these. It's not corrective prescription. It is literally to relieve your eye strain when you're staring at a screen.
Okay, perfect. And with the sleep hygiene as well, and I might butcher this also, I recently learned about, have you heard the 3-2-1 rule?
No.
Okay, so 3-2-1 rule is no food 3 hours before bed, no liquids 2 hours before bed, and then no screen time 1 hour before bed. And I would argue longer than that for the screen time, but yeah, that's the latest as far as timing to help you fall into a deep sleep faster.
So there's things that I'm trying to implement. This is just for me personally that are achievable and sustainable. And some of those, it's not sustainable for me. Like I've heard people about the water, especially as you get later in life, waking up and having to go pee and, these types of things. But and so for me, I could drink a gallon of water before bed and that doesn't wake me up for whatever reason. So that hasn't impacted me yet. And I think with the food, whether it is, you're doing it because you want to achieve your fasting time window longer. So if you stop eating at 7, and go to bed at 10, that means you can, whatever you're trying to do, whether it's 8, 12, 16, you can just eat that much sooner. So there's different things that I think are good, but, from being social or having business dinners and eating later, there's things that are just difficult. And, do you do it most of the time or all the time? And there's some guys that are, that are just fucking religious about this. And they will, dinner, if the dinner reservation's not at 5, I'm not going. And I don't want to be that. That's not for me.
Yeah.
And then same thing with my phone. I have an open door policy, as far as people be able to get hold of me with employees and I'm trying to get wound down at night, but I'm not going to just religiously. I think that'd be more stressful for me if I haven't, actioned, responded, or did something an hour before bed. I think I would just be like, fuck. All right,
Sure.
Is there something? So I think 3-2-1 sounds great, but for achievable and sustainable.
So and that's a personal thing for sure. If it's an hour before bed and you're like, damn, I didn't check my email, that's a personal thing. So if it works for you, great. If it isn't working for you, maybe something to adjust. What I would say about the 3-2-1 thing is with the 3 hours, it's allowing you to rest better, being that your stomach isn't digesting food throughout the night. My personal issue with it, and something that I've been a little confused on, is if I have a big meal, I can pass out. Think about after Thanksgiving, you eat all this food, everyone's sleeping, watching TV. If I'm fasted, I don't require as much sleep, and I will sit there. My heart rate will be slightly elevated, and my body's just like, "What the fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, what's next? Seriously, like, what are we doing? Why are we in bed? We have so much energy. We didn't break anything down recently. Let's go." So this is just what I've heard. I'm not necessarily saying that it works for me, but I'm implementing it. And the water thing, you're fortunate. I drink a shitload of water. Like I drink multiple of these throughout the day. When I drink too late, I piss all night.
Yeah,
so maybe I need to see a doctor. I don't know. Maybe there's something else going on.
Milk thistle for your liver, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll pick up milk thistle. But on the sleep thing, so there's one product that I'm excited to try out. I haven't ordered it yet. I am a hot sleeper, and it isn't hot here. I have my AC on at all times. I keep a fan on me. Whatever the reason is, I am constantly hot, and that's what wakes me up. There is a product out there that is a mattress topper that you can control and set down to, I think it goes down to 60 degrees, but it keeps your bed cool. I'm not sure the name. I'm sure there's multiple brands out there now. I am absolutely going to invest in it, and I'll let you know what my thoughts are. I don't know if you've seen anything like that.
So I bought the Tempur-Pedic cooled topper. I bought the Tempur-Pedic cooled pillows. Fucking hate them. Like they're like, I don't know, $2,500 worth of
cooling though, right? Not a device to keep it cold.
Exactly. Okay, cool. Yeah. So I wanted to level set that is the topper. And Tempur-Pedic, I was like, hey, like I thought this would be great. It's a cooling gel or whatnot. Like on like slept hotter,
hot as fuck.
Yeah, that's it. Just a complete waste of money. Like throw them away. Like I was like, all right, swing and a miss. But the ones that actually have the circulated airflow, and whether it's a topper or a comforter, I'm not entirely sure. But I'd be super interested. I know. The getting your body into a cooled state, and that's one of the things that I've stopped doing is like taking a shower at night, or a hot shower at least, or try to do it earlier. I mean, because if you're taking a 80-degree water shower, I mean, you're just like warming up your core body temperature, and then it's that much more difficult to get it to a cooler state right before you go to bed. But yeah, the sleeping cool is mandatory.
On showers, do you take cold showers?
I do at the end. I've forcefully taken a lot of cold showers, whether it's on ships or otherwise. I think there's a lot of great benefit, that's coming out of what it is. But I'll just do a normal shower for the first run, and then just turn it as cold as it'll go for the last 30 seconds or so, just to stretch it out, close the pores, and wake up a little bit more and cruise.
So I'll let you know how this plays out. I'm always a little bit leery of a solution that does one thing, but then can be highly recommended for the exact opposite. But as you know, a cold shower in the morning, and you can wake up, have a warm shower, do what you need to do. But to finish out as cold as you can tolerate, that jolts you awake. You're awake. I've heard that a cold shower in the evening will also put you to sleep, which is the opposite factor because you've got that. But being that it cools your core temperature, that it actually helps as well. So I have not put it into practice at night. I'll let you know how that plays out. And what?
So there's something I was listening to something this morning that haven't really fully unpacked yet, but it was interesting, specific to stressors, introducing stressors to your life. Whether it's cold showers, saunas, these different things, and just like what they were unpacking and what they were talking about is we as humans through evolution have gotten to a point where we have taken out so many stressors out of our life, shelter, food, or otherwise. And, arguably people are not as healthy. People are more agitated because they're allowing, they have the mental capacity to look for other things that are, pissing them off, or where they can direct their energy. And I just find it interesting. Now we're going out of our way to reintroduce stressors that for the last 100 years, everybody has been trying to take out. So like, let me get this straight. You purposefully wake up and jump into a tub of freezing cold water. Like, explain that to somebody 150 years ago. They're like,
Right.
The fuck is wrong with you? And I was
Right.
like, I love it. I think it just, but like looking at, we have, uncomfortableness, and reintroducing stressors, and whether it's fasting, whether it's saunas or cold showers or cold plunges, like I love it. I love that we're, as a society, or at least a small culture within society, is starting to embrace that stress is good. Stress has gotten us as an apex predator, to the point where we're at, because, we're adaptable. We find stressors, but we adapt too much that we, almost probably just take the stress out completely.
Right. So healthy stressors are amazing. That's how we survived for however many millions, of years. But it is funny. We've got heating and air conditioning, and as a first world country, we have warm water. And now you're seeing these, especially in the high performer realm, but people paying what could be an astronomical amount to others to go to a place where they can be hot as fuck and uncomfortable to where they're almost about to pass out. And then they follow that up with an ice cold bathtub or an ice cold tub, which no one would ever want to go into. I remember hearing about polar plunges when I was younger. I'm like, who the fuck would do that? Or the Polar Bear Club. It's like the 1st of January and people are going and jumping into the ocean. And little do I know, they were doing something amazing for themselves and starting the year off in the best way. And I'm here living in my creature comforts of hot water. And it's just, it's too funny how that can come full circle.
Yeah.
So sorry.
And then the last nighttime thing that I've talked talked a little bit about, and this is for busy mind, is that stimulation device from Mind Alive, and this was from special operations buddies that were starting to embrace it. It looks like something that you could hack together, but it is a nighttime routine that I absolutely love. But it is a pair of goggles that have different light sequences that are hitting your brain in a different way, and then it has headphones that are hitting binaural wavelengths, and setting a protocol for sleep. It basically, for me, just takes, it's a sensory overload to a degree that even if I did have a busy mind, or if I was racing through thoughts, you can't even think, and then drift off to sleep in a very rapid succession. So that's been something that I've been embracing and having a lot of fun with.
And what was it called again?
The one that I use is from Mind Alive, and they have the opposite sleep protocol for getting into a meditative state, to getting into a flow state, but the notion of it is through sound and through light sequences that you are getting your brain into learning meditative sleep environments more frequently.
And so for the listeners out there, I've been fortunate enough to see this device. I've been fortunate enough to put this device on and see what it's capable of. But if you were to imagine, and I don't want to dumb this down at all, but for me to really simplify what this looks like is, if you were to imagine someone wearing goggles or glasses that has essentially what you might even see at like a rave, but little LED lights or lights on the outside that would be flashing outwards in a concert scenario. These are lined on the inside of the lenses. So these lights are flashing almost in a strobe pattern with a light pattern that puts you into, at least for me, it felt like I was beginning to go into the vortex of a whirlpool. And when John's saying that it makes it easier to go to sleep, or at least clear a busy mind, I was unable to think about anything in particular, because as soon as my mind would go to one thought, I would just be going back down this hole. And I haven't used it as much as you, for sure. And I didn't use it for an hour, but correct me if I'm wrong here, I almost felt as though it was a disassociative. Like who I was was gone. And I was in this vortex, and it cleared anything, whether it was positive or negative, a stressor, a deadline. I couldn't even think about it because I was so focused on this. Like, yeah, without a better term, this whirlpool that I was just kind of circling through. So I imagine that if you used it for a longer amount of time, you may either fall asleep with them on, or you get to that heavy eye stage where you know to take them off, and then you're just out. But you can elaborate for me.
No, that's for me. It's very accurate. Whether it's I'm doing a protocol for meditating, doing a protocol for creativity, or doing a protocol for sleep, it takes the ability. Are we frozen? It takes the ability for me to let my mind wander and just be insanely present in nothingness. And I'm sure with proper meditation coaches, or getting to that point, and maybe this is a cheat to get there. Fuck it, it helps me. It helps me get there that much faster. Where I'm just in a. It just like for me just gives your brain just time to relax. Like it's just like you're awake, but the brain's turned off. Like you're just kind of there.
So when you said the meditative cheat, I forgot to mention this to you, and this was an exciting thing for me. Maybe this could absolutely be related to the goggles or the device, but I try to practice meditation as much as possible. There's weeks where I don't do it. Some weeks I do it 7 days out of 7. After using those, this was last night, I actually had a 50-minute meditation where it felt as though I was seeing those lights when I was about 20 minutes in. And I almost got to where it felt like I was spinning, like almost like not dizzy, but I was going down the vortex. And what I was seeing in my mind, I've never had this happen before, but it was very similar to what I was being loaded into with the goggles. So whether that was the training wheels to make a bridge connect for me for clearing out who I am and becoming nothing within my headspace, I can't say yes or no, but it was eerily similar to what I was seeing. When I got up, I was like, holy shit, that's crazy. Like I've in however many years I've been doing this, I've never had an experience like that. Like I now can see why people meditate. It was an unreal experience.
That's super interesting because I have, now that I have them, I just use them religiously. I haven't not used them. So now I'm curious.
Check it out.
I'm curious to see what that'll be if that has been a training wheel or gives you something to achieve.
Yeah, check it out and let me know. And I want to be respectful of your time. Is there anything else in the daily routine? So we talked about how the day goes, lifting weights in the evening. That's what you prefer to do. The unwind for going to bed. Is there anything else that you put to practice or that you'd recommend for someone else out there in a way to not necessarily copy your layout, but items to have structured into their day?
So something that I'm currently implementing for myself and across the team is being the master of your day, not let your day run you, is crazy important to be any type of high performer. If you're in a reactionary state, as we talked about before, like you're not going to get the things that you need to get done. Being an entrepreneur, being a business person, there's things that are going to come in. But the more you can define the outcomes of your days through goals or measurable success, the better. And there's something that I'm currently implementing. So far, I like it. I can't give you a 3-year testament to it. But are you familiar with like the Eisenhower matrix and how to plan out your day? So simply put,
I believe so. But please explain. Not everyone is, and this is about it.
So simply put, like you have. You build out your project management tool, or you build out your calendar, and you have do, schedule, delegate, or delete. And these are different tasks that you have gone through some sort of decision-making matrix, that these are things that people are telling you to do that you need to do. So do, schedule, delegate, or delete. Those are basically your columns of where a task or something needs to be. And then you go a step further. And so in those different columns, your do is basically you have identified it as urgent and important. Your schedule tasks are not urgent, but important. And your delegate is urgent, not important. And so what this is doing for me is helping me prioritize. If it is urgent and important, that's at the top of my calendar that I have to do tomorrow. Like I fuck the end of the week. I'll get it done by the end of the week. No, if it's urgent, I mean, unless it's a multi-day task and you're building a proposal and whatever. Like no, like scheduling things at the end of the week drives me nuts. Like if it's urgent and important, get it done that day. And so for me, like prioritizing my tasks in those different columns, do, schedule, delegate, is helping me master my day. And if you're in your schedule column, if you have not urgent but important, and it's just there, you're just in this perpetual, like your schedule column is just growing and growing and growing. Like, all right, you need to go back through and prioritize it. If it's not urgent, meaning it needs to be done today, but it's important, then why the fuck aren't you doing it? So if it's been in that schedule column for too long, okay, well maybe it needs to be delegated. Does somebody else on your team possess the skills to do it? Does somebody on Upwork have the ability to do it? Like if it hasn't been actioned, delegate it. And if you haven't delegated it, delete it. Like, but these, having this growing list of action items or a task list or a new task list that's not properly managed, and you just get a small little dopamine hit from you make yourself a little task list, and you check it off and you're like, oh, look at me, I drew a fucking line through it. Great. Okay. Like, that works for some people, but are you getting the urgent and important things done in an effective manner? So the thing's called Eisenhower matrix. Like there's all sorts of different templates for constructing it. So that's something that I'm using to master my day.
I will I will absolutely connect a link to that in the show notes. And do you have, I mean, you've got a shitload of responsibility right now, and you're traveling around the globe and you're meeting with executives and going through trainings and putting on trainings. Do you have bad days?
No. And I say that from a perspective standpoint. However, having a perspective to like, is this that bad? Is something that I'm losing a little bit. And, and then when we were talking about the dude sleeping on my front porch, like, is that what I'm looking for? Is this that bad type of reaffirmation in my life? And it's so far it's not. Just being from the places I've seen, the tasks that I've done, the engagements that I've had, I have a unique perspective in the sense that I can, if I'm feeling agitated, if I'm feeling pissed off, I mean, like, all right, am I getting shot at? Are mortars coming in? Am I sleeping in the dirt? Like this isn't that bad. And for me, like it's been a while since I've been overseas, so that is starting to taper off, and I'm noticing it that I'm getting more agitated or annoyed about certain things. One thing that has taken me a while to get around, especially being an entrepreneur, owning a business, is failure is okay, as long as you learn from it, adapt to it, don't make the mistake again, and keep on going. And looking at business as a game or something as a competition versus a definition of who I am has also helped me do it. Like I am purposefully choosing to start my own businesses. I am making a conscious choice to do this. And so the stressors that are coming in are a byproduct of me making this decision to be an entrepreneur, to start my own businesses. I worked at Google, and that was not for me. That was, I want those. And so if I have a stressful day of, this, that, or the other, be like, this is a conscious choice. Like you can go back to, a easy life and, make a couple $100,000 and, work for somebody else. But like, that's not what I want. And so those between having perspective of a prior life lived and the decisions that I'm doing and the stressors that are a byproduct of it are my decision, just help me kind of look through the bad shit. And I guess the last point in that is I have also constructed my life right now where it is all around business, and I don't have social obligations. I don't have marital obligations. I don't have children obligations. So it's easy for me to I don't have those stressors, and those are different level stressors that might impact people that I have purposefully engineered and architected out of my life for the time being.
So that is so valuable what you just said for hopefully every listener that we have out there. And the reason that it's valuable is because it really affected me. And I forget when I'm in some shit, or I'm with a frustrating person, or I'm waiting on a check, whatever it could be. And I'm thinking, fuck, I am definitely taking a hard path. And sometimes I wonder, like, is it worth it? I look at some of my friends working 10 hours a week and they're cush and they're working for someone else, but they're making pretty damn good money. I'm thinking, is the juice really worth the squeeze? And what you just said, I need to remind myself, no one's forcing me to take this path. And I signed up for this path. And what happens on the path, I'm choosing to push this direction, but it's not who I am as a person. It's a decision and a direction that I want to go. So I learned something today, or I was reminded of something today. So thank you very much for that.
Good.
And as we wrap this up, are there any products, any hotel hacks, flight hacks, boardrooms in airports? Is there anything that has impacted you recently where you thought, man, I should have been doing this a long time ago? For the business travelers out there, delegating, whatever that is, anything special that you would leave our listeners with?
Well, I think we need to do a part two
I think so.
on that specifically, because there is, and 100%, and even I'm implementing across my team to there. I mean, we need to do a continuation, because it is from expanding your network, making a new connection a week, start within your own circle, and then start expanding out from there, and seeing how just nurturing your network is going to go. Our embracing of AI in every workflow that we have in business, and forcing my team to look at the KPIs of how it is optimizing, or if it's a swing and a miss, so be it. But how can you take the different tools, the different resources that are available now to amplify your life, whether it's personally or professionally. So I have a laundry list of things that are great, things that are moderate, things that have failed, that happy to share. And then same thing on travel. So let's do a continuation.
We'll have to do a continuation. And it could be something that just happened, something that's upcoming, maybe a recent win. What are you most excited about in this moment?
Coming off a couple, we just won another large defense-related research and development contract that was ideation amongst the team. From ideation, submission to award was a super short, condensed timeline that just realized last week. So that was phenomenal. Last week I did a turn and burn to London, and to really nurture a relationship that I wanted to, but for a international trip, spent 6 hours on the ground before I flew home. And, but those are, those relationships and those connections and those insights are really setting the stage for this next evolution of the company that I want to take. So super excitable experience. Tonight, I'm taking, or tomorrow morning, I'm flying to Hanover, flying into Boston, heading to Hanover, New Hampshire, starting a 2-week executive leadership course that Dartmouth puts on. This is a something I haven't done before, but I am extremely excited. The cohort of execs from all different walks of life, all different verticals, are either their companies investing in them, they're investing in themselves. This is not a cheap experience, but it is 2 weeks full immersion. I got our schedule a couple days ago, and it is 08 to basically 8 o'clock at night with some white space in between to include weekends. And this is just full immersion. So now like I'm in that point where I want to do this. Like this is amazing. I also have 2 businesses that are happening at the same time. So like, all right, like time to get this done. Like, now I'm in a 8, 10, 12-hour day program for leadership, coupled with my responsibilities. Like, this is like exciting, scary, but it's valuable enough for me to where I want to take my companies, that I need to start looking past an entrepreneurial mindset and start really embracing, executive level decision making at larger companies, and so super excited about that.
That exciting is an understatement, and I'm personally excited. So this is we talked about being 21 and having the hard pivot, and I've watched at times up close, I've watched at times from far, but your development from 21 to 30 was inspirational, to say the least. And watching you grow from 30 to now, I'm incorporating this, you just recently turned 40, that was mind-blowing, and it felt as though there was an acceleration. So to watch you go from a change in plane from here to here, that was a big deal. Now we're really pinning it. I cannot wait to see what is going to take place from 40 to 50. This is where you're absolutely going to hone in as a powerhouse based off experience, drive, and experience is a big one. And knowing, as we said, failure is not really an option, as if we look at it as a learning lesson. And turning a failure, we kept 2 options with it. Is it a fine? Or is it a fee? Now, a fine sucks. A fine is like, fuck, I just got a speeding ticket, it's $500. If we turn it into a fee, and that's a learning lesson of, I'm not going to speed again because it cost me $500, but that was a $500 lesson, so I'll never experience this again. I'll never have wasted time. You've got that working for you with your experience in multiple realms. So just need to reiterate, couldn't be more excited for you, couldn't be more excited to see where you're going. We absolutely have to do an episode 2. And as always, if you want to get a hold of me, it's info@constructingsuccess.fm. If you have any questions for John, if you have anything you want me to ask him about, any show notes or ideas for where you'd like him to take episode 2, please reach out to me. And then, John, how can our listeners find you? What's your preferred way to be contacted?
So right now, I have extremely undervalued social. It is something that I have not invested in within my organizations. I think we're at a good point now to really do it, and I have some initiatives that we're actively doing. Find me on LinkedIn. That's the best way for me right now, and that's where I continue to keep kind of people updated on the successes and wins of both companies. We will be investing on both organizations in some community engagement in the months to come. Like obviously a very powerful tool, but it's just something that we have not embraced as an organization yet.
And if you follow me on LinkedIn, go into my connections, and it's John Chapman. And John, so this is your first time on the show, I always close out with a lyric from an old song. It was a commencement speech that was put together for a song. And I promise that I did not tee this up, but it keys into the recent birthday that you had. So as I exit, this is just for the listeners out there that may be feeling unsure or may not know what their next step is in their path of life, but goes something like this. Don't feel guilty if you don't know what you want to do with your life. The most interesting people I know didn't know at 22 what they wanted to do with their lives. Some of the most interesting 40-year-olds I know still don't know what they want to do. And with that, John, you absolutely know what you want to do. I cannot wait to watch. Hopefully, I'm closer than further as you continue to be successful with your endeavors. Any questions for me before I let you go?
No, man, keep on doing what you're doing. I know you're holding yourself to a commitment of 52 episodes.
52 episodes.
Yeah. Keep at it, man. This is important what you're spreading, and I hope your listeners appreciate the amount of time that you put in making content. It's awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And from Constructing Success, we will see you later. Thank you very much.